Let's get our edit on. Hey PowerDirector peeps, how y'all doing out there? My name is Malik and I'm back on your screen with more PowerDirector love. You know, the PowerDirector love you're looking for from PowerDirector University. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on my editing workflow in PowerDirector 16. Let me know in the comment section below if this editing workflow works for you, or if not, what's your editing workflow look like? Let's jump off into the software and make it happen. Here we are in PowerDirector 16. Before we get started, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to PowerDirector University to see great tips and tricks just like this every Saturday. Let's get into editing, people. One of the first things I do in my workflow is I rename the tracks. So in order to rename your editing tracks, you place your cursor over the line that's in between the track icons and the timeline tracks until you see a line with two arrows. Hold down your left mouse and then drag this out to the side. And then you see you can name your track. So this is really helpful because it allows you to easily identify what types of assets are on each track. So for instance, I might call this one my intro track. And I might call this the intro audio track. And then I might call the next one the Malik track because it has me on it or whatever. It just really helps me be able to identify what assets are on each track. And as I go and I add assets, I can go here and I can update the track names. The next thing I like to do is make sure that I have my hotkeys set up for the hotkeys that I create. So what I do at this point is I press Alt-H on my keyboard and it brings up the keyboard hotkeys. So here I have it set to the PowerDirector default, and basically I can go through and change all of these different options for all of these different types of settings and different types of hotkeys. And when I'm done doing that, I can hit Save As. And after I hit Save As, I'm allowed to give a name to my hotkey set. And then I click on OK. And then what happens there is under this hotkey set area, if I click on this drop down, I will have additional sets. And the set that I customized and created will be listed here. And this way, it'll be the hotkeys that I want for all of my effects. So I'm going to click on Cancel here. Now, the next thing we want to do is start to pull some files down into our timeline. But before I do that, I want to show you guys how to sort through your assets. Because if you have a lot of different assets here, let's say I have right now 11 assets here in the library. If I just want to see, like, let's say I have 100 or I have 200, it might be a lot for me to take in. So I might need to sort this information so that I can find things quicker. So if I just wanted to see the audio, then I would remove images and remove videos. And now all I see is audio, and I can siphon through here and pick the audio that I want and drag it into the timeline. Okay. Same thing for pictures. If I just wanted to see pictures, I could do that. I just wanted to see video, I could do that. And then if I want to see everything, I can bring everything up. So this is a good way for me to be able to sort through the library and get to the types of assets I want quicker. Now that I've showed you that, what we do next is we drag clips to the timeline. Dragging a clip to the timeline allows us to edit it. So I can drag one clip at a time by just left clicking on a clip and dragging it down into the timeline where I want it to be. Or I could drag in multiple clips by doing a left click on my mouse, holding down my control key, and then selecting additional clips. So now if I drag this down, it'll drag all 3 of those clips down into the timeline. And so there you go. Now, You can also perform what's called ripple editing by dragging clips on top of one another in a timeline. So let's say I grab this clip and I dragged it down here on top of this other clip. Now I'm going to get some options. I can just overwrite this clip, and if I choose that, it's just going to add that clip and it's going to remove the other clip that was there, and now it's really right there in the middle. The other option I have on here is to insert. So if I choose insert, it adds it, it pushes over everything that was after it. The next option I have here is insert and move all clips. So if I choose this one, it's going to move all the clips on all of the timelines so that everything stays in sync. And then the last option I have on here is replace. If I click on replace, it's going to put it there and just take out the other clip that was there before. Now, if we want to see more of these clips, we can easily stretch out our timeline, and this will help us be able to see more of the clips so we can do more precise editing, frame by frame editing, things like that. So I'll just place my cursor over the timeline where we have the numbers until I see a little clock and the arrows. Hold down my left mouse and I can drag this out and everything gets larger, and now I can see the different frames a lot clearer. Or if I want to, I can say, hey, I want everything to just fit exactly on the timeline, and I can click on this view entire movie button. And now everything fits from left to right on the screen. There's no clips after that on the timeline. So when it comes to previewing or looking at your clip so that you can do your editing, you need to know how to use the buttons under your preview window. So the first button is the play button. And then there's also the option to press the space key on your keyboard, which I'm going to press now.
James Sweens make.
And then you have your stop button, or you can press Control-7 to stop. Then you have your seek by buttons. So right now I have it set to frame. So if I press this, it'll go back one frame. Or I can press the comma key on my keyboard and it'll go back one frame. And then over here to the right of the seek button, I have my next frame. So I can press this to move forward a frame, or I can press the period key on my keyboard to move forward a frame. Now, the seek by button in the middle, it basically changes these two buttons to different options. So right now they're set to frame. If I press on this, I can change it to second, minute, chapter, or segment. So it gives you different options to utilize the seek by buttons. If I want to move forward a second, I would change it to that, a minute, and so on and so forth. Then to the right of that, we have our fast forward button. Or we can also press Control F to go fast forward. Then we have our snapshot button. So if you want to create a JPEG or a picture, because there are options to change it from JPEG to different formats in the preferences. And if you haven't seen my preferences video, you can go back. It's the first video in the workflow series, and it will tell you how to set up your preferences. But if you press the snapshot button, what it does is it'll save a snapshot of the frame where the playhead is. And if you click on save, it'll add it to your library. And here you see it. And now I can drag it down into the timeline somewhere if I want. So if I wanted to like create a freeze frame or something, I might place it right where the playhead is and stretch it out. And now instead of looking like it's moving, it'll be just frozen at that point.
So if you're going to be heading out to Wisconsin, or you already live there and you want to check out some things to do, head on over to his channel, watch a couple of his videos, and if you're feeling what he's dealing, make sure you subscribe.
So basically I just created a freeze frame by doing a snapshot, and placing that clip into the timeline. And then the next button on here I want to talk about is the undock button. So if I click on this, I undock the preview window, makes my library larger. I can move this to a different area. I can move it onto a different monitor. Could do whatever I want with it. And then we have here our dock button. So if I were to click on this, it'll dock it back where it was. So once you start editing, one of the things that you do is you remove unwanted parts of your video, and you can split or trim to do that. So let's say I wanted to split some video here. I can place my playhead where I want to remove the video, or for the section I want to remove. And then I can press the clip to make sure that that clip is the one selected. If I don't select this clip, it'll split everything on the timeline. All right. So now I can press the split the selected clip button. And now I have the part that I can remove. It's already highlighted blue. If it wasn't highlighted blue, you'd want to click on it to select it. And then I can click on the remove the selected clip button. And then I can choose to remove and leave gap. If I do that, there'll be a space there. So I don't want to do that. I have remove and fill gap. So if I do remove and fill gap, it'll remove it and it'll fill the gap for just that timeline track. Or I could choose remove, fill gap, and move all clips. And if I do this one, it'll move over all the clips on all tracks to keep everything in sync. And there you go. Now we can also trim clips. So if I trim the front of a clip, I can click on this clip, place my cursor here till I see two arrows, hold down my left mouse, and drag this over to trim off the part that I don't want. And when I let this go, it gives me options to just trim it. So if I just trim it, it'll leave a space there or a gap there. I can trim and move all clips, or I can trim and move clips, which will just move the clips on this timeline track, or I can trim and move all clips. So this time I'll do trim and move clips, and it'll just move the clips on this track. And there you go. Now we can also trim the end of a clip. So if I do the same thing, I have this clip selected. I'm gonna place my cursor here, left click, hold down my mouse, trim that, and I get the same options here. So if I were to pick trim only like I just did, it'll leave this gap here, but I can still remove this gap if I say, hey, I should have removed that gap. Now I want to. Well, all I need to do is place my cursor over the gap, click it with my right mouse, and I can choose to remove this gap and move the clips on the same track or move all clips. If you want to know more about editing clips, then I have a video on splitting and trimming clips that you can watch. Another thing that a lot of people like to do with their videos is add titles to them. Now, I have a video on the title editor. It tells you all about the tool. So I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown of how to bring those titles into your timeline. So the first thing I want to do is add a color board to add the title on top of that. So here for the media content, I'm going to change this to color boards. And it really doesn't matter which color you do. Let's say I want blue for some reason. So I add a blue color board here. And I'm going to leave my playhead here at the beginning of this. And I'm going to go to the title room. And I'm just going to drag this default title down to a track. You could drag it down to the title track if you want, which is down here. But you don't have to. You can actually put a title on any track. So let's say I add it here. And now the title is here over the blue color board. And I can stretch out the color board to make it match the length of the title. And then if I click on the title or double click it or go to designer, then I can change the wording and do all these beautiful things that I show you in my title editor video. So I'm going to hit cancel. And then there's also the option to just add your title over the video or over a picture. So instead of using a color board, you just drag your title down and place it underneath the video clip that you want it to overlay. And then you have a title over your video. Pretty simple stuff. So the last thing I want to talk about is applying transitions. So I'm going to go here to the transition room. And I'm going to stretch out my timeline here so I can see my transitions a little bit easier. So there's several different ways that you can apply a transition. You can left click on a transition that you want to use and drag it down to the timeline. You can place it on the end of a clip, the beginning of a clip, or you can place it over the end and the beginning of two clips like that. What happens then is it'll go ahead and fade it to the next one. You won't be able to see it now because it's just the same clip back to back. So it's not really going to show you anything for that fade. So don't really worry about it. As you see here, if I play it,
With video, YouTube,
you barely saw the fade happen. So the other option, and let me make this a little bit smaller here so we can see everything. You can barely see this little line here, which is the transition. So the other option I was talking about was clicking on the library menu, and then I can apply the transition to all videos. I can apply it by applying my favorite, by applying random transitions, applying fading transition, and then also I can apply random audio transitions to all of the audio clips. So if I, let's say, do the fading transition to all videos, I can choose prefix, which is at the beginning of a clip, postfix, which is at the end of a clip. You could do cross, which is right in the middle and none of the clips overlap, or I could do an overlap where the second clip overlaps the first clip. So I'm just going to do cross transition. Click on that. And you'll see now all of these have a little transition in between those clips. So we're good to go. So now let's wrap this up by talking about copying and pasting keyframe attributes. So if you add any type of keyframe attributes or effects to a clip, like on this one, you can see that it's zoomed in. This one is not zoomed in. So if I want to zoom in this clip like this one is, what I did on this one was I applied the PIP designer and I applied some scaling effects to bring it up. But instead of having to do that, click on this clip, go to PIP designer and do everything again, I could just click on the clip where I've applied the effect or the keyframes. I can right click on it, could choose copy keyframe attributes, and then I can click the clip that I want to paste them to. I can right click on it and select paste keyframe attributes. It'll give me a warning saying, hey, if you have any keyframes that you applied to this clip, they're all going to be removed and replaced by the new keyframes, and that's okay. And now you'll see that it jumps up. So now they're both zoomed in. Now you can only do this one clip at a time, so you can't do it to multiple clips, so just know that. And that, my friends, is the editing workflow for PowerDirector.
All right, PowerDirector peeps, that's it. I want to thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end. It truly means the world to me. And now I want to send a shout out to one of my subscribers, Techalicious. Techalicious makes tech and DIY videos on their YouTube channel. So if you're into technology, you want to see the newest, freshest tech out there, or you want to see some DIY builds or some DIY stuff, head on over to his channel. check out a couple other videos, and if you're feeling what they're dealing, make sure that you subscribe. If you guys want to get a shout out like Techalicious did, make sure that you head over to the video description and fill out our shout out request form. If you got a tutorial you'd like us to make, head over to the video description and complete our tutorial request form. Now that I'm done with that, I got a few things I need you to do for me. The thumb. The one that's pointed in the upward direction, click on it. It lets people know that the content in this video is good and that they should watch it too. If you got any comments, questions, or you just want to chop it up with your boy, leave those things in the comment section below. And last but not least, smash that subscribe button. And after you do, click on the bell. When you click on the bell, you receive notifications every time I upload content to YouTube. And that way you don't miss out on any of the learning and all of the fun. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.